It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. 2 retirements in the NFL as kicker Mason Crosby calls it quits after 17 seasons in the league. Crosby last kicked in 2023 for the New York Giants after 16 seasons with Green Bay. Also, safety Micah Hyde hangs it up after 12 seasons in the NFL and 3 second-team All-Pro selections. The Bucs are set to hire Charlie Strong as their new defensive line coach. The former Louisville and Texas head coach spent last season with Alabama as an analyst, now back in the NFL for the first time since 2021 when he was with Jacksonville. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Stores, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation because the main topic today is all about, do you trust Brian Callahan in the ability to develop a quarterback? Because to be honest, you know, I've kind of, over the years of studying the draft, you hear all these people go on all these shows, not necessarily the nerds, but like former coaches and former GMs go on these shows. And something that happened, it was the 33rd team with Mike Tannenbaum, you know, that company that all these former GMs, they were talking after Malik Willis got drafted. And we're talking about the importance of the quarterback coach, not necessarily the head coach when it comes to developing a quarterback. And I thought that was a pretty interesting way to look at it from their times, you know, talking about young players coming in, that really your head coaches typically don't have the bandwidth to sit there and develop a quarterback. That usually falls on the shoulders of the offensive coordinator or the shoulders of your quarterback coach or maybe a passing game coordinator to truly develop the quarterback, because that's who they spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. So we don't really know anything about Joe Burrow's development under Brian Callahan, right? Because also Joe Burrow was pretty much considered a polished prospect too. I mean, he came in, everybody pretty much had him as a consistent number 1 quarterback. Everybody kind of already threw him into the elite tier of quarterback prospects. And so, like, what actually did he do? So, I mean,
was he the quarterback's coach at the time?
No, he was the offensive coordinator.
Oh, he was the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, he was the offensive coordinator. So he wasn't even the quarterback's coach. So it comes down to really, because the thing was, and I've been pushing back on this all year, when he was hired, everybody called him a quarterback guru and quarterback whisperer. And by everybody, I mean people here in Nashville, Tennessee. The NFL never labeled him that. National media never labeled him that. The Cincinnati Bengals never labeled him that. He's never labeled himself that. It was sunshine pumping from local media here at Tennessee, in Tennessee, and we all kind of like let it slide. But at the end of the day, when you Google quarterback whisperer, quarterback guru, Brian Callahan, it's only articles from Nashville, Tennessee, which is crazy.
So what did he,
the question is,
when you say that, though, what did he do to sell himself? We don't know that. We weren't on the interviews, because he can say, and he has said, different quarterbacks that he's talked to, that he's worked with. So he's actually putting out there a platform that he is that guy, even though he may have never said it.
I don't think he really puts that out there, though.
You work with Peyton Manning. Yeah. And we've heard it.
But we all know that those guys were already Peyton Manning and Matt Stafford and Derek Carr before he got there.
So why is he saying it, though? He's saying it trying to show that I've worked with some guys and I can get quarterbacks where they need to be. Now, he's in a different position. But why would he use those people out the clear sky blue?
Well, that's not really the clear sky blue if it's just people you worked with.
During the season? No, it is. He was now the coach here. Why does he have to rekindle that? He's doing it because he's justifying that he is capable and can do and work with these players. Not to say that he developed them,
Right.
but that he's worked with them.
Right. That's what I'm pushing back on. He's never been a whisperer or guru. He is a guy that has worked with really great quarterbacks and knows what it takes to be a good quarterback.
So what do you think he sold, though? That's the
I
question.
don't know.
See,
I mean, like,
how do you get a head coach job when you never call plays?
Yeah.
You were just a quarterback's coach to an OC where the head coach actually called the plays. So theoretically, nobody knows what exactly you really did from the outside.
yeah.
See, so what do you then sell yourself as to get that opportunity?
Is a guy that knows what he's doing. Have all this experience. I know what I'm doing. I've been around all these different regimes. I know what I'm doing. I don't think he's coming in there and necessarily saying, I am a quarterback god, because that's what you're saying. When you're saying he's a quarterback guru, you're saying that he can develop. He could take any quarterback. Because this is my biggest thing with this is the term guru, because guru now is like generational talent.
Well, that is a misused word, and I'm sure it was with him and other people's following. In his footsteps the same way.
And I'm sure he did come in and said, hey, listen, I know what it takes. I know what it takes to be a good quarterback or a great quarterback in this league. I can try and pull that out of Will Levis. And he probably said, I can pull that out of Will Levis. Because I'm sure most coaches that come in and interview for this job all said the same thing. So it then becomes, what does your resume say?
Right.
What does your background? What do the other people say about you?
Right. Well, you're a big resume guy. That's what I'm saying. Until you sit down and talk with somebody, do you really know what they can actually do? Maybe he was
look at Mike Vrabel, right? Worst resume of any head coach that you could really think of. He came from the 32nd pass defense in the Texans, and suddenly he's got a job, and he's only been in the NFL coaching for 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. Well, he may have been 2 or 3 years, maybe, because he was an assistant coach, I think, at one point. But I mean, very limited sample size, right? And then he comes in, and then he starts off hot because he took over a playoff team. Right. And then it kind of dwindles down, and you kind of see that he's learning from his mistakes in New England. He never was really given a reason to learn from his mistakes on the fly at the beginning of his start here because he found so much success. Hey, it's all working. I must be doing something right. No need to change. And see, Brian Callahan's now got the flip side, right? He's like, man, I really thought I could do all this. I learned a lot in that first season.
Yeah, well, I mean, only thing I can say, I thought he grew as a coach faster than Vrabel did.
Oh, really?
I think so, with worse tools. See, that's why I say that. Now, I will say, though, what I didn't see was, and I've said it numerous times, is that the team didn't seem to improve. And when I say that, it's all head coach driven. Penalties, that's a reflection on the head coach. That means they're not disciplined. Now, eventually, at some point, the onus is on the actual individual player, especially it's the same guy over time. But every week, it was always someone different. And so that meant, besides the offensive line, so that it's really coming from up top. Now, that's not always the person to blame, honestly, but that's how it's viewed. It's just like the quarterback is viewed with the wins and losses, or the GM is. Is that really fair? I mean,
correct.
So I think those are the things I'm really looking for this year to see if the same mistakes doesn't continue and duplicate them.
I think part of you kind of hit something on the head when talking about, penalties and all the stuff that we put at the feet of the head coach. And there's no really
time management.
There's no really way to do it, right? But there's no head coaching stat. Right, that you can help explain some of the stuff or see what is and isn't. It all falls at the feet of the head coach. Like everything pretty much almost always falls at the feet of your general manager, right? It just kind of goes uphill because it's always easier to blame one person than the other. And when it comes down to it, I don't know what Brian Callahan can be. To be honest, I didn't think it was going to be as bad as last year.
Oh,
right?
Me either. No
because,
way.
I thought that things were going to change, things were going to look different and feel different, and it kind of did. But I never saw the progress that I thought I was going to see in multiple different areas. And, not just, how the offense have moved and not just the win-loss column, but it just didn't seem that cohesive, I guess. And then and I think at the end of the day, I feel like and maybe this is just what's being said now, has now kind of made me look at the last year in a different lens. But the talk of collecting talent, I wonder if there wasn't a cohesive line of thinking of building a team. And maybe that's where this all kind of got messed up, is like, you don't have strong leaders back there. You have some strong talent, but you don't have strong leaders in the locker room. And it's just stuff that they have said in this offseason has kind of made me view like, was it a still dysfunctional? How much of that is the GM, the former GM? How much of that is the head coach being new and then having no leadership to lean on in the locker room? Like, I do wonder where it all stops and starts with the head coach. And I think it is a valid question to ask, is he literally too in over his head? I don't think he is, because he seems to know, and maybe this is just the politician in him, he seems to know the right things to say, Blaine. He seems to have answers. And when he doesn't have answers, he seems to be willing to be self-reflective and point towards himself. That doesn't really mean much in the NFL anymore. right? I mean, it just doesn't really seem like it means much.
I would concur with you all the way in. It's like a school teacher, though.
Yeah.
Okay, you know the information.
Right.
But it's your job to make sure they know the information, and every individual is a little different. So maybe you need to have one-on-one talks. You need to go that extra mile for them to help you. That's what coaching is. It's teaching. So to me, if you can't find a way to teach, or the guy just doesn't want to learn, then that's when you move on. And I think all these guys are paid, as we know. So I think they all have to be open to a certain extent to trying to improve themselves individually. If not, they know it will be not for long. That's what the NFL stands for. So including the coach. So I think he knows it all, but does he and feels comfortable when I say that? I'm talking about being in the head coach's shoe and chair and everything else. But I think he maybe lost a little bit on, teaching different guys how to and get them to respond to your coaching.
And I think there is a perfect example of what you're talking about. And I'm going to tell you that perfect example when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. We're talking about Brian Callahan, sort of the job that he's done, the job that he's tasked with, and the confidence you have that maybe, just maybe, he can maybe turn this thing around, specifically with a young quarterback in mind. And we're talking about teaching and communicating and learning. And you were kind of alluding to this idea that maybe he didn't learn fast enough, that this isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of messaging, right? Special teams, there is a talk in
which
special,
is tough by
which
a
is tough.
coach.
Yeah.
Because you're only with the team, let's say 15 minutes before, after the practice, really the position coaches have to, continue to regurgitate the same things, that the message throughout the locker room.
And specifically, he did talk about that with his sit down with A to Z with Easton Freeze, was about how hard it actually was. There's a lot more than just showing up every day, running a practice, blowing a whistle, and doing some meetings. He said the messaging was something that he did struggle with. And he thought that the team did take to the messaging well. They did respond well, but he said, that motivational messaging aspect of it all was probably the biggest thing I had to learn on the job, on the fly. And a lot of that is, this is an entirely new team. In Cincinnati, they got to establish that, build that up, and add players that fit that culture. Here in Tennessee, it was a little bit different timing. You didn't have a lot of leaders to begin with, and then you kind of collected talent, as they put it. And then you're kind of trying to build a vision, build a foundation all at the same time. And that's pretty difficult, right? I mean, that's not it's not as easy as what people want to make it out to be. But I do go back to special teams. And if you recall, there was that time that Colt Anderson said, I thought they understood it. Like, I thought they were receiving my teaching, receiving my coaching, and I thought they understood it. And that was a big to-do. We talked about this on the show. But
didn't we think that was weird that he said that? Well, at least I did. I was like, what?
Yeah. And the way he phrased it was even weirder.
You thought they were, but they ain't not executing something.
But they're not executing.
Something matching up.
And it got to a certain point where they switched players out, put players that responded and listened to the messaging in, and it got better. Didn't get better quick enough, and that was kind of the whole thing. And I do wonder how much of that in the special teams, what he said was a microcosm of the entire year. The entire team. The entire team. That wasn't just a special teams issue. They were teaching and communicating in a way they thought was effective. But like you have said numerous times, maybe these players didn't ask that why. Because you were a big why guy. You asked why. And you kind of have to ask questions. And they facilitated communication. They said they have an open door policy. People could come to me with any kind of questions or anything. But if you don't take it, a lot of players probably feel that if they ask that question, that they feel that they're going to be viewed it's a dumb question. But I do wonder how much of the special teams was actually more symbolic of what was going on behind the scenes with the coaching staff. Because it was all new coaching, all new coordinating, all new philosophy.
Yeah, that's a really interesting proposition here that probably did happen. And it is a tougher job, but man, some things, like I would be a real patient coach, but the false start in there on the offensive line there towards the end of the season was really getting a little annoying for me. I might have done what they did and start rotating guys, but I would never have done it as soon as they did. I would have been so far. Every time somebody, hey man, come on, what are you doing, man? We talked about this 50 million times. Can't be jumping off sides now. If it's some veteran guy, no. But if it's kind of repeat defenders, the only thing you can to get them to wake up when you're in the pros is come stand next to me. And that can hurt you, it can pain you, but at the same time, if he's not getting the message, you gotta, even if it's for a series, you gotta do something. Because guess what? That's letting everybody know, hey man, I've given you all the tools, all the coaching I can give you. You're not responding. You're going out here, and I'm not talking about a physical feet out there on the field. I'm talking about just a mental aspect of what's your responsibility.
It's how they should have handled Traylon Burks, right? I mean, to be honest with you, and he said a big regret is that I didn't recognize that NWI just does everything you asked for when you needed it. And Traylon Burks, I saw first-round talent. And I'm trying to get the first-round talent out of a first-round player that they just drafted, and I'm trying to get that guy to play at a level. Well, sometimes those guys just can't do it, and he stuck with it too long. And maybe he should have done the approach of, hey, you stand next to me, or you stand next to Tyke Tolbert or Nick. Well, Nick Holtz is up in the booth, but you stand next to a coach and you watch NWI play football, and you got to be right next to my hip the whole time, and we're going to go through all the information, because at the end of the day, Traylon Burks hurt them more than he helped them. And then NWI, who was a touchdown machine, how many one-score games did they lose out on at the beginning of the year because maybe they didn't play NWI over Traylon Burks because they got enamored with the first-round draft status.
Oh, that's right. You just reminded me. B-Hop owed me dinner, too.
Yeah. He owes you dinner as well as I do?
On the Traylon Burks. I said, he's not going to be at the NWI. What are you talking about? I said, man, I don't know. I want him to, but I don't think he will. So, you're right. I would say this. To me, here's how you speed up that process. I'm going to give him a coaching tip. Coach Callahan, here's a coaching tip. Please go and listen. Here's what you should have done. While you're watching Traylon Burks and you still seeing, he's the first-round pick, and you have to play him because of that, of course. So you're thinking he's going to get it. But every time he made a mistake at practice, every time he made a mistake in a preseason game, even at the beginning of the season, because he had many opportunities there, you said every time he come off, you should have had him talk to NWI. And NWI, here's what I would do. Tell him what he did wrong. See, now you're putting the pressure and onus on him, Burks, because this guy understands what he's supposed to do, not in a demeaning way, to say, hey, man, y'all need to collab here on what he did wrong. Because I told you what to do. You're not out there. So what was he supposed to do, NWI? And then he's going to give him the answers. And then if he can't get it then you know your way of coaching him isn't the reason why he's not having the success. It's him.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what you do. You say, we went over this 50 billion times. When you get in the red zone, you're supposed to run the slant like this. Why did you run it that way? NWI, how was he supposed to run that route in the red zone? Yeah, see, that's how you start coaching guys who aren't listening, don't get it, and aren't getting it right, because guess what? It's going to cost you your job. I be dang it, I'm playing the best player. So the next time I pull you out, you ain't going back in. That dude's staying out there. He was forced to play NWI. That wasn't an occasion.
That's true.
He had no doubt. So he would have never made the move, Callahan, until he was forced to because of injuries. So he was never going to do it. That's how I look at it, or at least to the end of the season.
Well, I mean, look at Jaquan Jackson, right? I mean, you want to talk about a guy that they held on. Yeah, the guy that they gave chances to way beyond what they should have until he makes the egregious errors, instead of just going ahead and getting the guy out of there when you know that he's not living up to the expectations. Because as a coach, your team, even as a boss of any kind of business, if your team's not performing up to the standards you want, you got to make some changes. And Jaquan Jackson was not performing up to the standards of even an average NFL returner. And you needed to get his butt out of there until he figured out what he was actually doing.
He was leading the Pro Bowl vote. What are you talking about?
I know that Pro Bowl. But that goes back to coaching, right? Yeah, that goes back to saying then, like, what are you doing? Why are you letting the locker room see that, hey, you don't have to live up to the expectations to continue playing. And that's what he did. That's what he did with Traylon Burks. That's what he did with Jaquan Jackson. That's what he did at the right tackle situation. Now, the right tackles just kept rotating in and out, but they never came in and brought in real competition for that thing. You got to have, and this does fall back onto the coach, and this is something I've just realized in having this conversation. You got to start holding your team to a higher standard and your players to a higher standard. You got to hold number 53, the 53rd man on your roster, to the same standard as you hold the number one guy on your roster. Mm-hmm. And if they're not playing, you got to find someone that can do it. And they eventually got to that point, But again, like most things that happened in this season, it just didn't come quick enough. And that goes back to the quarterback. If this staff is in charge of developing a young quarterback, is it going to become quick enough? Is the development going to happen quick enough for not only just them to keep their jobs, for the quarterback to turn into something, and for the Tennessee Titans to have a franchise quarterback for once?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. If they did draft a quarterback with the first pick, I wasn't there and understand how Will Levis learns and what's his nervous system, to use Callahan's terms, when he gets in heated situation or pressure situation. So it'd be interesting to see if they do take a quarterback, how those questions are asked and answered, and then do we get those kind of results when they do play? Because that's the only thing we can go by. And so I'm sure he was kind of a little duped too on that as well. Because what coaches, most of them do now, and I don't know if he remembers when he came out, Kentucky and Cincinnati are pretty close, so I'm sure he was aware of who he was, but how much film he watched of him, and his turnover rate in college, and then, did he interview him? To me, that's much more important for that position, and understand how he takes in information and then how he responds in game. So that's really the critical piece, because other than that, when you watch film, you say, okay, he has all the tools. I can work with this. Without knowing the guy in general, that's all you can do. And I think he would probably say, I would have said, yeah, I could work with this. This guy's got a big arm. He can make every throw now. Sometimes he's off on timing, and things of that nature, and drifts in the pocket. Hopefully I can fix these things. And they all seem minor, but for athletes, it's really hard. And here's why I'll tell you it's hard. Because you create habits, and those habits are hard to break. And once you start these habits and you do them and you show them consistently on film, people then hence start taking advantage of that. And it's hard for you to even break them. And at quarterback, oh my, that probably be the toughest to break. And that's what I give Will Levis when I talk about I wanted to see him respond to his failures, because you could see him trying to actually break some of his habits. Towards the end of the season, he wasn't drifting to the left in the pocket.
He's just drifting to the right.
Right, he's just right. Yeah, I know. He started stepping up. Whether he stepped into trouble or not was a whole nother story. But you could tell he was trying to be what he needed to be a starter. And I want to give him credit for that. It just came up short, and he had enough time to really prove. He ran out of time. He had enough time to prove that he could be the guy on a consistent basis in this system. And so, so you could say it's the quarterback, it's the, quarterback's coach, the offensive coordinator, but ultimately it all falls on the head coach.
It really does.
It's sad, but that's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. Let's go to your phone. Let's go to Tristan in Brentwood, who wants to talk the NFL draft. Tristan, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, okay. Blaine, you played with Steve McNair. What was he like for the Super Bowl? Did he go out and party? Because Shedeur Sanders, for that BYU game, Jason Whitlock talked about it, and Athlon Sports talked about it, where he was at a strip club with some of his friends, with the team and stuff. And
who was doing this? Shedeur?
Yeah, Shedeur.
Well, he's not playing in the Super Bowl though.
No, he was playing in the bowl game versus BYU, and that's why they kind of lost a strip club for 2 nights instead of focusing on beating in a bowl game. So, would you want that as a quarterback? Just to for a big time game if you had Shedeur as your quarterback, or would you like somebody focusing on a playoff game, studying film, Peyton Manning, or Cam Ward? This is. Focus on the football, where you get an interception, that 10-minute, Duke game, that's like a Will Levis almost, or you could go for a quarter, if you're, once your parents mention, be patient, and for next year's draft, because I think those quarterbacks are much better coming out next year instead of this year.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks,
that's a lot
Chris.
in a nutshell there, but I'm leaning towards the be patient.
If that was in a nutshell, that's the world's largest nut. Because I mean that's a lot to cram in that nutshell. That was a lot.
He almost lost me there for a minute. There.
Well, I'm now googling Shadur Sanders and strip club here.
What is he?
Okay, first off, the reason why if we haven't heard of this story before now,
Jackson, help us.
I just want to say that I'm not taking anything Jason Whitlock says to the bank.
What? He said Jason Whitlock said this?
Yeah, he said that. So this is a tweet from Jason Whitlock.
You know Jason Whitlock went to Ball State.
Yeah. Oh, is he? Fellow alumni? Did y'all in the same class?
No. When I came in, he graduated.
Okay, so it goes, so I missed all of the Colorado BYU game yesterday, Jason Whitlock tweets. What are the best takeaways? I've been reliably told that the Colorado University offensive players rented out a strip club 2 nights during their bowl trip, supposedly. So supposedly, allegedly, they rented out a strip club.
I mean, Jason Whitlock was like this in college as well, and it just like people would say he would annoy them, and he has continued that feat to continue to annoy a lot of people.
Isn't I don't want you to name names or anything, but isn't this kind of like a pregame ritual for a lot of NFL players? Don't they all kind of go out? Maybe I'm not saying everybody does, but there's a good contingent of players that do go out to strip clubs the night before game.
First and foremost, we have curfew at 11.
Yes.
So I don't know who was outside of their privy and paying for fines. I have no idea. That was not me. I was definitely in by 11. So I don't know if that was a ritual. But here's what I will say. And even as a player, because I was a very, very serious player, I was watching film at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. And they provide all of that for us. So I was not going to be saying, hey, come watch film with me. But if you want to, yeah.
Do you have to bring your own VCR?
No, I'm not that old.
Oh, I mean,
no. The coaches have everything because they're showing film during the process when we have meetings.
Oh, I didn't know if you were like up in your room watching how you're watching it.
No. We had to go down to a room, a banquet room.
Gotcha.
And it's a big room, so anybody could come in there that was a player and sit and watch film. So that's what I would do. I'm going to say this. Some guys like to relax and go out and have a good time. And some guys like to be, just watching a movie. And some guys like to do what I did, was watching film. So I won't hold it against you if that's your style, the way to play to the level or reduce your stress levels or whatever it may be.
This conversation has really got the chat going.
So I could care less what you want to do the night before the game. I'm sure coaches would say, as long as you're in by curfew, of course. But all I want to do is when we get out in that game, you are focused.
Yeah.
And that's really all that matters. If that's the route that you go to, more power to you. That's not my style, but there are definitely players who do that. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even during Super Bowl week.
I mean, yeah. I don't. I'm not gonna say there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that, like, I don't even know what the point of the call was at this point. I think we lost the plot. What was his actual question?
I guess he was talking about would you want to draft, Shadur Sanders because he went out to a strip club during bowl week. I don't think that's on my radar as far as docking him for doing that. So it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
First and foremost, if you go out there and perform, man, on your free time, you can do whatever the heck you want to do.
There you go. Let's go to Joseph, who wants to talk about Callahan. Joseph, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. Love your show, Blaine. Love watching you play for years. I can say this. I honestly, Callahan will be gone next year. You can't these teams running out here and grabbing these offensive coordinators that have not ran teams, that has not, like, I'm a contractor. If I got a drywall guy that's really good, I'm not going to tell him to build my house. Just like Arthur Smith. I said, Arthur Smith's going to run to Atlanta, 2 years, he'd be fired. You've got to build a team from ground up, great foundation, and you got to get people that knows the game. I'm not saying he don't. He's a good offensive coordinator. I just don't think that he was the guy that should have been put here. And another thing, too, is what I want to call out real quick is when you got Derrick Henry, 8 guys in the box, you could take Will Levis to anybody, and they could become a great quarterback.
Yep.
If he goes somewhere, if Will Levis goes somewhere, you got Derrick Henry, the most feared back in the league. And you put Pollard back there, they don't care about Pollard. They cared about Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
So, and another thing about Levis is he's only been in for 2 years, but he's only played so many games. It's so sad how people would just want to throw people to the curb instead of try to make them into players. And I love the Titans. I'm a diehard Titans ever since they came here in '98. But it's so sad what I've watched over the years. They run in. Vrabel should never been let go. I'm sorry. I got to say that. He was a great coach. But you got Derrick Henry. You got a weapons. Then you should never got rid of A.J. Brown. But I can say this to y'all. Callahan will be gone. I said it on my Facebook. You go and look at it. Rand would be gone in 2 years. Callahan will be gone, and we're going to be back to square one. I just wish that they would really go out and figure out to get guys like Vrabel that could coach and build teams. You got to build teams like Tomlin.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, Joseph. What team did Vrabel build over the last 2 years to yield a losing season, 2 losing seasons in a row?
Here's the thing. I played football in high school and college. Here's the thing. You're not going to be perfect every time. Tom Landry was not perfect every time. He had losing seasons. Tomlin has losing seasons. But you got to stick with a guy that's going to build your program. And Vrabel was building. Yeah, he had some bad times, John Robertson, things like that. But you got to let them build. You just can't go, well, tomorrow we'll get rid of him and somebody else is going to come out and they're going to be the next savior. I had so much hope this year because they built it up. They sold us on the idea of Brian Callahan. And I was like, man, okay, this is great. Now we got an awesome stadium coming in, and this is so exciting, but you can't be exciting only on 3 wins when they sold us on the idea that we were going to at least have 7 or 8 wins. And one thing before I let y'all go, because I love your show and listen to it every day, Shador, I would get him. I'd go get Prime, and I would build into next year, and I guarantee you that stadium will be packed.
There you go.
You get Prime as a coach?
Prime as a coach. Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm sorry, Blaine, but that guy can play football, knows football, and everywhere he goes, he's a winner.
Oh, no question. Yeah. He's been successful at everything he's done, even in the media.
Everything. Back when I was a diehard Cowboys fan in the 70s and 80s and early 90s until the Titans came here, he was one of the greatest players, dynamic, just like you, Blaine. You're dynamic, hardest-hitting dude I've ever seen in life. And I can tell you, this is what the Titans need. They need to build on something, get people excited, fired up. This thing we got right now, we're just living in limbo. Yeah. I'm going to let y'all go on that. Love your show. Listen to it every day. Ride in my truck. Love you, Blaine.
All right. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it, Joseph. When we come back, there's a lot to unpack there, from Mike Vrabel to Deion Sanders and all that. We'll talk about all that when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And we love all of our callers, but those last 2 callers made me feel like we have already done the show for 2 hours.
You got sick there for a second.
Oh no, I was laughing and coughing at some of the stuff that was being said.
You did get led you to get sick.
Yeah. But okay.
That was great.
So, the whole giving Vrabel more patience to build a culture. Well, that's what he spent his first 4 years doing. And then when the talent dried out, Vrabel wasn't able to overcome, those talent deficiencies at the same level of success that he had years prior. And so I think that people misremember what Mike Vrabel was at the end of his tenure. They don't want to remember those bad year and a half to 2 years at the end.
Well, also in the beginning, he never built the foundation. The foundation was built by malarkey going to the second round of the playoffs.
He came into a house that was pretty much built, and he got to finish off the basement.
Yeah.
He got to finish decorating the garage.
Analogy, yeah.
He got to fix one room
and did a good job and learned on his way. As a head coach, as time went on, I remember he said he was always going to go for it on 4th down. I'm like, how can you say you could go for every 4th down? What are you talking about?
Right.
4th and 1 or shorter. That's what he said. So, well, I don't know. Field's position, timing of the game. I mean, those all factor in. I don't know if you could ever do that. I think as a player, you think that. But then when you're in the head coach's chair, it's a little bit different.
And now it'll be interesting to see if he learned from his mistakes, right? Because he was a micromanager.
He was a quick learner.
He was a micromanager his whole time here. He wanted to get guys that would do whatever he would say and kowtow to whatever he said. And, I saw that he hired Doug Marrone. And the first thing I'm thinking is, who's going to punch who first? Because Doug Marrone ain't going to suffer being talked to the way that Vrabel tends to talk to players and coaches and all that kind of stuff. So my first instinct was, who's going to land that first punch? And then you got Josh McDaniels. And when Vrabel starts telling Josh McDaniels how to run his offense, is what's going to happen? Can he truly take a step back and say, I'm going to let you guys run this offense. I'm going to let you coach this offensive line. I'm staying away from it, even though that he did stick Doug Marrone with Jason Hoteling. That
was a great decision you said, right?
Yeah, fantastic decision. And then you got over here, you got now Todd Downing, who's never been wide receiver coach, being wide receivers coach for a lackluster group of wide receivers. And is he going to be coaching Travis Hunter to try to get him in as a wide receiver? That will be interesting to see. If they were to draft Travis Hunter and then this non-wide receivers coach is trying to teach him the ins and outs and the techniques of being a wide receiver. But, is he going to step back and say, Josh McDaniels, this is your offense, right? Or is he going to say, this is your offense, but you have to run it 30 times a game and we have to have this? Because we know that's what he thinks leads to a win is running the football.
Right, so they may take a first-round running back.
Could take Ashton Jeanty.
Oh.
With that number 4 overall. I would not put it past them to take Ashton Jeanty because right now they don't have a running back.
Yeah. And the reason why I bring that up is based off the caller. That was another thing, and you've kind of mentioned it, that this team had to do rebuilding 2 years before that, but they could lean into Derrick Henry to save the day and make them look like they were a solid, average, middle-of-the-road team, even though they only won 6 games. So it was formidable that, those guys are elite players, but it also masked how much all the deficiencies that were building up over time through bad drafting, and then now it's hard to coach when you don't have talent.
Which he's the part of that right now. He is the personnel guru over there, if you will. He is the football czar of New England Patriots. And so, again, how much are you going to take a step back? And that's something that Mike Vrabel never learned here. Does not mean that he learned that in Cleveland. Maybe he's gonna enact that here. But at the end of the day, you're the New England Patriots going up against the Buffalo Bills. Right now, the Buffalo Bills seem like they're going to be on top for forever. So how much success can you have in that own division? This ain't the AFC South, where everything was kind of a cakewalk for his time here. This is the AFC East. And, Miami Dolphins will likely rebound as well. You know, they had an unusually bad season. They were still kind of in the playoff mix towards the end. Then you got, the Bills, like I said. I'm just saying, I don't think it's going to be as smooth sailing and everything as what everybody wants to think for this first year. Because I think what's going to happen, Blaine, is by the time the draft is over and everybody's making their predictions, they're going to predict this team to have a winning record next year for the New England Patriots. And I don't think that's going to be the case.
It's going to be interesting. May and old Mr. Milton there from Tennessee. Wonder if he'll be on the trade block.
Well, then someone started that rumor. Greg Bedard of the Boston Globe or something like that. Started that.
I don't know.
They started the Joe Milton. I'm surprised we haven't had 13 calls today about the Tennessee Titans trading for Joe Milton. Oh. Did y'all have any calls today for Joe Milton being traded to the Tennessee Titans?
Not yet.
It's been a while. But it'll be interesting to see what happens here among all that. And now we'll switch back to Brian Callahan. We got a little bit of Mike Vrabel talk out of the way. We'll switch to Brian Callahan in the next segment. We want to hear from you. How confident are you, and why or why not, in Brian Callahan being able to develop a quarterback in the for the Tennessee Titans? And I'm also going to tell you why I don't think it's that big of a deal whether they draft Callahan's guy, quote unquote, Callahan's guy quarterback or not. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here at 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2, Hour 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. What's your confidence level in Brian Callahan, Tennessee Titans head coach for now, developing a young quarterback? So I got some sparrows on the ground, some sparrows on the ground at Super Bowl media this week. So I'm getting some little Senior Bowl scuttlebutt, some rumors swirling around, some expectations and all that kind of stuff. And there's 2 quarterback situations that are popping up right now that are something to monitor. Obviously, it's already been talked about this week that the general feeling, especially down at the Senior Bowl, is that Cam Ward would be going number 1. Tennessee Titans like Cam Ward, which we kind of like debunked that a little bit. I mean, how do we know that they like Cam Ward? How do they know? They haven't even met him and all that kind of stuff. So that's scouts talking scouts. So whoever scouted Cam Ward for the Tennessee Titans told everybody at the Senior Bowl, man, we're really high on Cam Ward. The 2 latest quarterback rumors that have been, now these are been told to me via some sparrows that have asked to remain anonymous, but they're hearing from various reporters in their off-camera session from their podcasting that they're doing down there, that Derek Carr is kind of expected to stay with the New Orleans Saints, to stick around, which kind of makes sense. I mean, Kellen Moore probably would like to have a quarterback in place and is probably taking the job with the idea that he could do something with Derek Carr, at least temporarily, while they get themselves out of salary cap hell and all the contracts that they're in. Better to have a quarterback than not have a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other one is that this is the one, my least favorite one to say.
You're talking about rumors down at the Super Bowl.
Rumors down at the Super Bowl are that this Aaron Rodgers to Tennessee thing has some legs to it.
Oh, no, Jackson.
And I'm not liking that.
His face.
I'm not liking. I can't see what face he's making because he never has the lights on because he's ashamed of how he looks, I guess, or something.
No, the lights are on today.
The lights are not on.
They are not.
We like full brightness.
Yep. They want to be in there in the dark because they're trying to hide.
Look, he can even still go full brightness.
Because he still has light.
This is full brightness.
You still have, I can see the sleep in your eyes.
Now, yeah. Now, listen, what does this Aaron Rodgers thing to Tennessee have legs actually mean in the big scheme of things?
He has a house here.
He has a house here. Tennessee, maybe he wants to be in Tennessee, and maybe that's where this.
Why want to be in Tennessee? Being a veteran
I don't know. He's a weirdo. Of course, he wants to do something that's totally weird,
right?
Huh?
He's trying to get a second ring, right?
I don't know, but I mean, I wouldn't. Again, these are Super Bowl rumors, stuff I wouldn't put too much stock in. But these are rumors that seem to be pretty persistent, right?
Is he connected to Callahan in any form or fashion?
I can't think of anything. So it'd be all Brinker.
Oh, with the Green Bay. Oh.
Yeah, it'd be the Green Bay and all that kind of stuff.
The Brinkers trying to bring the Brink truck.
Yeah. So, and again, he has to be cut by the New York Jets, if I'm not mistaken, or they're going to trade for him. But this Aaron Rodgers to Tennessee thing will not go away. I've seen Mina Kimes talk about it on ESPN. We've seen a bunch of people kind of make that connection and dots, and I was kind of thinking for the longest time, is everybody just being lazy because we have a former Green Bay Packers exec, or do they really think that Brian Callahan wants Aaron Rodgers down here? Does Brian Callahan let people know, or is this all from Aaron Rodgers' camp? Either way, man, if he actually does end up here,
I think it's going
to be unbearable.
It'll be entertaining, and they'll be talking about the Titans. That's for sure. And remember, I had you look up his stats the other day. So, yeah, his stats weren't very bad. You know what I would do to punish Aaron Rodgers? Say, when you sign here, and not a trade, it's a sign because I would not be trading. But, is that we're going to also trade for Garrett Wilson as well, your favorite target. Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen, I would take Garrett Wilson.
Right, exactly. Do you still want to come here?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
Yeah. See that because now we're getting Wilson, Ridley. What do you want to do here? We're not bringing. I'm letting him know. Like I said before, you bring a player over and talk to the other player and tell him I will be letting him know then we're not bringing your boys. We're going to work with the guys we got. That's where we at. So you down with that if you're not? Because when things don't go well, that's when you're going to speak out.
That's why I just can't buy into that this is ever going to happen. I feel like there's too many hurdles. I mean, does Brian Callahan really want a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who won't shut up in the media about every bad thing that you may do? You may fart during a quarterback meeting. He's probably going to go on Pat McAfee and tell everybody that that man needs to eat less Brussels sprouts because, man, those farts smell. I mean, there is no hiding anything when you have Aaron Rodgers on your team.
Oh, man.
And think about the youth on the roster.
Can you put that in his contract?
Please do not.
No, please do not fart.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers had a no fart clause in his contract. No farting around me.
Oh, man. He can't be that bad. But I get what you're talking about in the locker room with his leadership skills and some things supposed to stay in-house. He definitely does not do that. I don't understand why. I think he's somewhat of an elitist. I got it. And as much as I liked him as a player, man, I not this locker room. We're trying to build the locker room, and he probably would tell him the wrong things to do. There are things you don't want him to know quite yet.
So I'm looking at his contract right now.
Know,
so let me. Here's another hurdle. So we've talked about a few of the hurdles. $40
million, right? What does he make it?
So because of how they've structured it, right? He's got 4 void years after this year. So this is the final year of his contract with the New York Jets, but they have 4 void years. Mm-hmm. If they were to cut him or trade him with a pre-June 1st designation. So we'll get into what post-June 1st designation, all that stuff is later in a later episode. But they would lose $25.5 million in cap savings. The New York Jets would.
Before June 1st.
But before June 1st. Oh. Now, they can designate him a June 1st trade, post-June 1st trade, or a post-June 1st release and save $9.5 million. Now, here's the thing about that is that $9.5 million is not realized until June 1st. So you can cut him or trade him with that designation before June 1st, but you don't see that. The other thing is that you can't get 2025 draft picks if you do that. So it kind of feels like New York Jets are kind of stuck with him right now unless they decide that they're willing to go ahead and cut him with a June 1st designation, let him hit free agency, or trade him for a 2026 third or a fourth or something like that. You wouldn't even get a 2025 draft pick because of that.
Maybe that's why Aaron Glenn said what he said is like, we will be reviewing all players.
Right.
And assessing them. And he didn't say contract, but now because they specifically asked about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean,
he didn't give him an answer.
It feels like to me that I think Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers could probably hit it off for 1 year to buy yourselves time.
Exactly.
So I really don't think this is going to happen, but I don't like that everybody keeps trying to talk about it and trying to will it to happen.
Well, it's because they want it to happen. It's just because he has a house here. But, Aaron Rodgers, now we seeing Derek Carr probably won't be available. Who do we know will be available outside of Sam Darnold?
It's really him, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Daniel Jones. And listen, all love, much respect to 3HL.
What happened?
But they are pushing a pro-Daniel Jones agenda, and we must stop it. Because there is no way that I want Daniel Jones as a Tennessee Titan.
That is not true.
Ron Slay and Brent Doherty are. Am I correct? I'm correct in the 2 that I got, right?
Yes, I believe so. I'm not going to throw Don's name on it and be wrong.
Yeah, I think one of them, and I know Ron Slay's pro Daniel Jones, and I believe that Babs, Don Davenport, is anti-Daniel Jones, and God bless her, because she's correct. I do not get the Daniel Jones love affair. And there's some people in the chat that kind of bring up Daniel Jones as a Tennessee Titan and as a bridge quarterback, and I'm like, a bridge to hell, I guess.
Well, you got you got to see him behind a bad offensive line. Even you got to see, who he was. I thought it would be a good idea if they brought him in during the middle of the season when he got released to see if it could be a possibility. I don't like it from the outside in. Just like
it is Slay and Brent, by the way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They are they're the Daniel Jones truth or the Danny Dime. They're doing the March of Danny Dimes.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not pro that. And to be honest, I know I've said this before, but I was using him as a stopgap guy. I don't even want him here after that 1 year and the price that he's going to cost, and that's Sam Darnold. As much as I wanted the Titans, I just wanted a stopgap then at the right price. Right. Now, if we're talking about $35 million and then he's your quarterback for 3 or 4, no, I don't want. Because guess what? He's going to go back to the mean of who he really is because this team isn't the Minnesota Vikings. We don't have the same personnel. We don't have the same play caller, and we're not a playoff contending team. We got to see who he really was those last 2 games when it really mattered. That's Sam Darnold. No, I don't even want him.
You don't even want him. So what? Okay, when we come back,
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to sign a veteran.
You're going to have to give us an answer. You're going to have to give us an answer when we come back.
I don't know who's available.
I'll pull up a list. I'm going to read off some names. You can tell me yes or no.
I think we're going to run the option.
You're thinking Will Levis is what you're thinking. You're going to end up, we're going to go through this whole list and you're going to say, I'd just keep Will Levis at this point.
No, Arch Manning.
There you go, Arch Manning, 2027. All right, when we come back, we'll talk more about the quarterback situation with Tennessee Titans. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
There are a lot of diagnoses out there, and there's a pill for everything, but not all diagnoses are accurate, and not all pills are good for you. Hey, it's Blaine Bishop, and when you get a diagnosis for European auto repair, get a second opinion before you make a major decision. And Eurofix is the home for second opinions. So before you spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on European vehicle repair from a diagnosis, go to Eurofix. It could not only save your vehicle's life, but could actually save you from a lot of stress that ruin your weekend. And life's too short to get stressed out and angry. So be happy and go to Eurofix. And at Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit and not high-pressure sales tactics. 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And at Eurofix, you never pay dealer pricing. Family owned for 26 years. Located all over the state of Tennessee in Franklin, Hunted Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here. 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And we're trying to solve off air the Titans quarterback problem. And we're going to bring that on air to everybody. So
gosh.
I think we've both kind of landed on they're screwed. I think is where we're really at. Is that the Tennessee Titans are just in a place where they're in quarterback purgatory right now, because you kind of think that the viable path, the paths to good quarterback play in 2025 are very narrow. They exist, they're just very narrow. I disagree with you. I think I would take a chance on Sam Darnold, which is very funny to hear you say that you're out on Sam Darnold after giving Joseph and Jackson and all the producers crap for saying that you thought Sam Darnold was going to be good and they all said he was going to be bad.
No, you're getting things confused.
Okay.
I said that the Titans should have signed Sam Darnold before this past season.
Yeah.
Right, but that was only for 1 year. I like him for a stopgap, but not after having that performance he had, and now he's unaffordable to be a stopgap. See, so all situations aren't the same.
See, I think you could take a chance with Sam Darnold and give him a multi-year deal.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do it?
No. Here's why I would never consider, and this is why people upstairs make the mistake. You're only looking at his 1 year window of success. His body of work tells you who he is. And that whole body of work is not based off of this last
So let me
season.
ask you this,
So then what I would say is he's probably more so back to the mean, a mid-leveling starter in the NFL. Now, I don't want to do that for 3 or 4 years or be locked into a $40 million a year contract. No way, no how.
So they did that with Tannehill. So would you think that
Tannehill was a lot less, by the way.
Well, true. I mean, when they initially got him, he was a lot less. Then he went,
Right,
now if you did inflation, all that would be about the same. But I don't think he's going to get top. I don't think anybody has Sam Darnold's market right. I think it's really going to be under $40 million is what he's going to end up getting. Because I do think those last 2 playoff games hurt him. It obviously hurt him in the eyes of the Vikings, right? It was rumored. And even though I never believed the rumors, it was rumored that they were going to give him an extension or they were going to tag him and then trade him and all this kind of stuff. I always thought he's going to hit free agency. But let me ask you this. Would you, if you got Ryan Tannehill style 3 years of play, I guess in the end, do you think that this is any different than the Tannehill thing?
No, it's totally different to me.
Okay.
It's the same in that it's a quarterback getting traded from one team to another or signed to another team. The difference is we don't have Derrick Henry. See, so it's not the same. Tannehill, the team was built on Henry, not Tannehill, and that helped Tannehill. But everybody said, Tannehill was just a kind of a thrower and never reached his potential with the Dolphins. Even though some years he had good numbers, It didn't equate to getting wins. So when he got here, then they kind of curtailed how much they threw the ball because we had Derrick Henry. It was a run-based offense, and that helped him out drastically. And then he was pinpoint accurate, and he did perform for 2 years there. He was really, really good. So I don't think it's the same. I think Sam Darnold is probably a little more talented in his arm talent. I just get really – Callahan brought it up. What is his – watch this. I'm going to even take it to the next level. Central nervous system like. Because when it became rattled,
did short circuit a little bit here and there.
The last game when it really counted, and then the playoffs. That he did not respond well to that. So I'll be interested. That'll be the first question if they sign Sam Darnold to a multi-year contract. What do you think of his central nervous system? Because it showed right there. He should have thrown some of those balls away. He should have thrown some of them in the dirt, and then some of them he should have taken the sacks. So that those signs there. Now, can he be better than anything the Titans can get? Well, yeah, but that's why I only want him for 1 year window, because I want to see if he goes back to the mean. Because guess what? Our supporting cast is nothing like the Minnesota Vikings. First of all, we don't even have Addison or Jefferson. So
you don't even think Ridley's as good as Addison?
I think they're the same. I think they're about the same. Yeah, Addison at times looks like a huge number one with Jefferson on the field.
So if you think this about with Sam Darnold's addition, Okay, I do want to get through this list of free agent quarterbacks.
Well,
it is a
all of
wasteland.
them, but as to what, that's why I would sign him to a 1-year deal.
Okay, so let me ask you this: then what is your outlook for the rookie quarterbacks? If you feel this way about Sam Darnold, who is a veteran, who has played, on some bad teams, but also on some good teams, and you're afraid of him reverting to the mean
because of the
supporting cast.
Yeah, that's why I want to trade back.
So you're kind of like, so I got to know what's your plan. What's your plan at quarterback?
The plan is easy.
Yeah,
you give me the list and I'll tell you.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna go through the list. Sam Darnold, we've already talked about. Zach Wilson, in or out?
No.
Trey Lance,
no.
Jacoby Brissett,
no.
Taylor Heineke.
No.
And these are the quarterbacks that are free agents, by the way.
I do like some of these guys, but do I want to sign them to the stopgap modest contract?
Because you're really looking for the bridge quarterback. You're not looking for your franchise quarterback. The only franchise quarterback you got here with potential to be a franchise quarterback is Sam Darnold. Everybody else is a real stopgap. Maybe Justin Fields, but...
All right, well, I'm going to stop you from going through this. I already know the two guys that I'm really interested in for a stopgap guy, and I think they'll be heavily motivated to prove that they can be starters because they were starters before, and they're still not that old. They're still pretty young. And that'd be Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, stopgap guy, as well as Drew Lock. I want both of those guys.
Oh, man, I can't handle Drew Lock.
I know you don't like
here.
Drew Lock. I know a lot of people don't.
I'd rather have Mac Jones than Drew Lock for a stopgap.
I like Mac Jones, too. I put him on the list. I like what I really saw with the Jaguars and what he did going against the Titans. So I like what I saw there, too. So I would put him on the list because he's still young. And I would like to go watch film of those guys and say, these guys have a lot to prove. That means a lot to the NFL players because they're motivated by the money. And the money dictates how hard they're going to play, how hard they will be focused. And they will be all in, chips all in on a 1-year deal to I'm going to prove that I am still a starter in this league. So that's why I like those guys. There's a lot at stake. And meanwhile, unlike you, in the stats say, the stats say you shouldn't draft it. I may still take a quarterback second or third round. If I really like a guy and he's just not worthy of a first round, I may take the chance. If I trade back and I have multiple picks, I would consider it for sure. Because then guess what? It's the worst case scenario. He can be my developmental guy. And then the next year, you then draft your young, starting quarterback. Because you don't live for just this year. You live for 3 and 4 years down the road.
Right.
And then my whole deal is when we get into that stadium, I got to have this team as a contending team, and we got to be pushing all cylinders to try to be something that can go deep and eventually get into the Super Bowl. So that's kind of the version of where we at today. I would have never got there. I wanted to rebuild 2 years ago, 2 years back. So.
They're in a mode where this is clearly make no bones about it. I don't care if they say it or not. I don't care if they say it or not. This is a rebuild. Yeah, if you have not come to terms that this team is not going to be good in 2025, because that is the likely scenario. The likeliest scenario is this team is not good in 2025. So I would set your expectations appropriately and don't get drunk off what they do in free agency. Make them prove it to you.
Get drunk. Take some, tequila shots.
Yeah, there you go. Make them prove it to you.
Well, now, with all that being said, now some people would go the opposite and say, I'm going to take a quarterback because that is the biggest hole and you have the first pick. And I completely understand that.
Yeah.
And if you like one of those guys and you wholeheartedly believe that they can be the guy, then, hey, shoot for it. Go for the stars. I'm cool with that. But just know that he may be out there with not a lot of pieces in place, and that could stun him. But if you're going to be scared, then you wouldn't have made that pick.
And let me say this. All these quarterbacks this year, they're all project quarterbacks, to be honest with you.
Hey.
I mean, Cam Ward is not a finished product. Shadur Sanders not a finished product. And they got such big cons to them or hurdles that they're going to have to adjust to in this game, that they're just as much as a project quarterback as any other quarterback that's came out recently. And so whatever you do, you're going to have a good infrastructure in place because they're they're going to not be good when they start. Like, they're just not going to be. I mean, I'm convinced right now that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, no matter where they land, are not going to be good. Unless for some crazy reason the Eagles trade Jalen Hurts and then the Eagles get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders and they got A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Devontae Smith in that offensive line. Like, that situation probably, if that were to crazy happen, would yield instant results. But, like, no matter who the Tennessee Titans draft, they're a project quarterback. You just got to call it like it is. Neither of these guys are finished products, regardless. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and neither of them are really, truly going to have high-yield success year one unless this roster looks entirely and totally different and their free agency hits on every freaking level. Offensive line to wide receivers and pass catchers and all that kind of stuff.
I'd love to ask, like, the Commanders as well as the Texans when they drafted C.J. Stroud. We all know we're talking about Jaden Daniels with the Commanders. Why did he have so much success, both of those guys, their rookie years? And I would love to hear both sides. And I guarantee you they give you different answers because of different teams. But, man, that's not normal, really, to be honest.
It really isn't. And I think that's where people think that it's just so easy to do, and it's just not that easy. It's not that normal. I mean, because even then, with C.J. Stroud last year, they still had a good offensive line last year. They had Laramie Tunsil, right? Franchise left tackle. They had Nico Collins, who was already turning into the Nico Collins that everybody was talking about. They had Bobby Slowick, and then they went and got Dalton Schultz and Noah Brown and all these other these players. Now, year two, we kind of saw all that not work, and they ended up going to get Stephon Diggs, who ended up getting injured and losing time. They went and got Joe Mixon, who was fine, but, I mean, they were just a paper champion, right? I mean, everybody wrote them in as going to be like these Super Bowl contenders, and they never achieved it. I'm interested to see what Jaden Daniels does next year. Because, again, and as the Tennessee Titans have told you, I look at it and I go, they're looking for sustained success. And unfortunately, at the quarterback position, the only way to get sustained success this year is to take a dart throw on one of these, not on Jackson Dart, but on one of these rookie quarterbacks. But again, it's not going to lead to immediate success. Yeah. It's just not going to.
Yeah. And I know everybody, you included on my Drew Lock. What if we signed two quarterbacks? Jimmy Garoppolo with Mac Jones.
Listen, you currently need two quarterbacks. I know they got Will Levis, but I don't think Will Levis is going to be on this team.
I'm going to have Drew Lock waiting around the corner. I know everybody's laughing because
Drew Lock did not go over well with the chat.
I love it. Guess what? When I said Sam Darnold last year, that same result happened. Right, because they're looking at the final results. He's been in some tough situations. If you watch him in glimpses, if he could just sustain it a little bit longer, I think he could be better. But I don't think he's just like, he's not a good quarterback. I think he could be, a good solid backup. Which he's kind of somewhat proven. And I think he's a fighter. And something about guys who are fighting to get over that hump and heal, Mayfield, guys like that, deserve another shot and see if they can actually do it. And guess what? All I want is a little light of that.
I got Curtis in the YouTube chat saying nobody's expecting immediate success. Why is that the narrative? Because everybody keeps talking about Jaden Daniels. Look at what Jaden Daniels and C.J. Stroud did. I mean, talk to the chat, Curtis. Don't talk to the radio show. Talk to the chat.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but they are. That's what people are thinking.
I mean, that's what people have done. We've already seen it in the chat. And, I mean, heck, I'm pretty sure Curtis even said that at one point on Football and Other F words.
No, that was Jackson.
It may have been Jackson. But 615-737-1045, you want to get in on the conversation. Let's go to Anthony, who wants to talk about the quarterback situation. Anthony, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Well, I think everybody's missing the point. You got to take Sanders, because I think when you take Sanders, you're cutting 3 years off of your rookie development. This kid's been around the NFL his whole life. So when on draft night, when everybody else is saying, "Oh my God, it's a dream come true," he's like, "Yo, let's go." He comes from good pedigree. If you watch him, he's got his head together, right? He may not be completely finished. But the one thing I see whenever they draft quarterbacks, every year they fall in love with the big arm or whatever. Very rarely do you get a chance to see the mental part of a quarterback. And I was watching YouTube the other day. How many of these kids were like, yeah, you know what? I need to work on my game. And their dad takes them to Tom Brady, and he's learning from Tom Brady. I think mentally, you kind of have a glimpse as to what this kid is going to be. You take him and you go with it, period. End of story. That's what I got, guys.
There you go. You heard it from Anthony right there. Brings up them training with Tom Brady. Of course, Tom Brady and Cam Ward are also training with each other right now. But there is something to that, right? Like, everybody harps on the Deion Sanders, I guess, influence as a negative. But really, can it be a positive? Because of exactly what he's saying. He knows what to be prepared for when he gets into the NFL. His dad went through it. He knows. And he's been in Pat Shurmur's offensive system, right? Mm-hmm. So that is an NFL offensive system. He knows kind of the mental aspect of it. I really don't think it's the mental aspect of the NFL that I'm worried about with Shedeur Sanders. It's more the physical aspect. Can he make all the throws? Can he make them consistently with timing, with accuracy? When things get bad, how does he extend plays? But I do think Anthony brings up a good point, is that really the Deion Sanders stuff probably isn't the negative that people want to make it out to be. And it's really more of a positive that people are under discussing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that notion, except for when some reporter during the season of Colorado asked him about his son, whether he's playing, not playing, if he's, benched or whatever it is, someone's going to ask him, and that's when he's going to give his opinion. That's the only time I see it being a problem. Everything else is positive.
Yeah.
People don't understand, he's got to coach his own team. He's got daily routines that, once you're in the league, nobody is, watch this. Eli Manning's son, dad ever get involved with the NFL teams? I know his dad wasn't a player, but he was at some point in time, right?
Right.
Yeah. See, so I think that's a little overblown. It's just because Deion, whether you're a fan of him or not, you got to say that he's been successful with everything. I think he don't know when to cut the chain loose, and I think he really wants, and he'll never say it. I think he wants him to go to the Raiders. I don't know why I believe that. I just think that's where he thinks he should be.
I could see that.
And guess what? You know why I say that? You just said it. Tom Brady's there.
Yep.
Who was training him and getting him advice? Was back then? Tom Brady.
I think there is a real positive, I guess, aspect of having Deion Sanders too. Kind of how what Anthony was bringing up.
Great points too.
Which I thought was, he kind of has a cheat sheet, I guess you say, the cliff notes of how the NFL really works behind. He's probably seen a couple of instances of how the NFL works with his father and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that goes a long way with how you handle your business when you get to the league. If you have that kind of information and experience, a leg up on some of your peers. This is something that I thought was an interesting point that we have not discussed enough. When we come back, we'll get to Danny and Joe. They want to talk about the quarterback situation, the Tennessee Titans. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
As an athlete myself, I know how frustrating nagging pain or injuries can be to keep you from performing. And if you have a nagging pain or injury that's been keeping you from fully enjoying your favorite sports or activities like golf, tennis, or whatever it is, now is the time to finally take care of it. And the winter is here, and so is spring, hopefully right around the corner, and now is the time to make it happen. And Edge Peptide and Hormone Therapy has multiple regenerative treatment options for treating, healing, and recovering from your injuries or pain. And Edge has everything from PRP treatments to stem cell therapy. And Edge focuses on your body's natural ability to heal, and the ultimate goal is to always avoid surgery if possible. Can reduce your joint pain, inflammation, promote tissue repair, and even improve mobility and function, just like I did with my racked up shoulder. And the new year should be about healing, and Edge is here to make that happen. So call Edge for a comprehensive consultant to create the perfect treatment plan for you at some of the most aggressive prices you'll find in the area. So call today at 615-724-1878, or you can go online at edgepeptide.com. That's edgepeptide.com.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. Last chance for phone calls. And I got a question for Blaine about his future. I got a question for you later.
About my future?
About your future. I got a question for you. But first, let's go to Joe, who wants to talk Tennessee Titans. Joe, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Gentlemen, how y'all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Question. All right, good. If you guys could reverse time to this time last year, what were people saying about the Commanders coming in with a new coach, a rookie quarterback? And if you go back 2 years ago, same thing with the Texans. They've been on their third head coach, rookie quarterback coming in. Why can't the Titans, what keeps the Titans from having that same optimistic outlook what is the difference? I know that it seems like the defense is pretty much together. We're still talking about the offensive line. That seems like that's a pickup either via free agency or second or third round draft pick. Why can't the Titans have that similar success? And Blaine, lastly, you mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. He played versus TSU and the OVC with Eastern Illinois. Mm-hmm. That might be a pretty good backup pickup because he's been in the stadium, familiar with the area. So, and I'll hang up and listen to all of this off of air. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Question, yeah.
Well, I think that the quality of the quarterbacks that both those teams got is way better than the quality of quarterbacks the Tennessee Titans currently have available to them. I just do. I think that's the biggest reason as to why the hype. Because right now, if you ask anybody, the only person that's really high on any of the quarterbacks in this draft class is Mel Kiper. Everybody else, it's like you have Cam Ward is at like 18, and then Shedeur Sanders at 40 overall. I think it's the quality of the quarterbacks and the fact that all the analysts pretty much are saying the same thing right now is that these guys would be 7th or 8th or possibly in the same tier as Michael Penix Jr. from last year's draft class. It's just not a good draft class.
Yeah, I think it always starts with the quarterback. And so if they get a quarterback that can be lightning in the bottle, whether it's a veteran or a young guy, I think also leadership brings in, some of those guys, just their leadership skills are off the charts. They said, a lot of people always gravitated to C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels, so that always helps a lot. They mean they're confident in ability, and even when they make mistakes, they understand what they did, and they come back even better. So, it's just really hard to say in a team sport why it comes together for some teams and it really doesn't. A lot of things have to match up and work really well, and then it just takes off, and then you start, believing in, where the direction of the team is going, and then it's unstoppable. That point, It was really still hard for me to believe how good Jaden Daniels. It was about halfway through the season when I realized, man, this guy's playing so well. He's really an MVP candidate.
Right.
And I mean, when you start saying that about a rookie quarterback, it's just like unbelievable that's what has happened here. And then with new ownership, too, there was a lot of turnover. So maybe just all that newness just kind of helped them. And then they had leaderships. They had Bobby Wagner, who's at the end of his career, who's a leader and still can play and do well. So they had and they had veteran coaches as far as head coach who had been there, done that. So I think that helps too. So. But nobody would imagine that they were going to have that kind of season. Not me, anyway.
And really, the draft is a crapshoot, right? You go back and you think about all the hubbub around Trevor Lawrence and even that entire draft class and of quarterbacks, and I never bought into it, and I didn't really believe in that whole generational Trevor Lawrence thing because I didn't think he was that generational guy in college. He wasn't a generational college quarterback. He was just a college quarterback, right? He didn't do anything that amazing when you really start diving into what he was. And when you look at Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and we're going to have a lot of time to talk about our hesitations with Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, but they have some of the worst aspects of Will Levis's game tied up into their game. And to me, that's, I'm not saying that they are Will Levis or anything. What I'm saying is that the stuff that I didn't like about Will Levis coming out of college, they have that in their game too, on film. And so at the end of the day, that's, we'll get into that a lot. So I want to ask you a question before we just get out. Okay?
Uh-oh.
I just saw Ron Rivera is being called general manager of Cal.
His alma mater.
His alma mater. If Ball State called you today and said, hey, Blaine, we want you to be the general manager of our football program at Ball State, would you take it?
No.
Would you consider it at all? Or is that, because that was a pretty quick no.
I said no?
Yeah, I know. So you wouldn't even consider it?
No.
Oh, wow. Now, why is that? Is that because you're afraid of, because you're general manager up there.
Well, I'm making decisions on who we sign or not sign or pushing in that way. And
you get on the recruiting trail, maybe?
Yeah, I think that ship has passed. And so, to get on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, get on the recruiting trail.
They'll be talking about Blaine was fall asleep in the office.
Oh, would they? You could be taking your little naps? I've seen what you eat. You eat healthy. You probably have a lot of healthy energy stories.
I don't know, man. Nah, the lifestyle of that's like being a coach is not in
not
the
appealing
cards.
to you
Not in my
whatsoever.
cards. Nah.
I thought about that today. I was like, man, I wonder
If I
Blaine
didn't do it
he's
initially,
general
right when I finished, it was never. I already said, before that wasn't in the cards for me. It just, the lifestyle of it is just unhealthy, and it's tough. It's a tough job. You can't win. Guess what? I could be wrong about Drew Lock or Sam Darnold, and guess what?
It don't matter. It don't matter.
It don't matter.
And when you're right, hey, and listen, when you're right, it does matter because you can bring it up over and over on your own show.
Right. So that, man, when you're coaching, oh man, it's always your fault. It's like, dang it.
Because my wife is like, did you give your resume to Mike Bergonzi or something? Like, well, I don't have a resume. I was like, you must not want me around the house because like you would never see me if I got a job at the NFL. Like, because I mean, again, even if you're getting a job as a scout, you're gone.
Yeah.
It feels like how they describe it, like 350 days out of the year. Like you would not be seeing me.
It feels scary, like you're never at home.
Yeah.
That means you're always on the road eating out. It just, oh man, nah.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
You couldn't.
Yeah, that would go well for probably a year. Then I'm like, oh, I'm burnt out.
I need a vacation. Let me dip into the college slush funds real quick and go somewhere. Get that private Ball State jet.
And I don't think Ball State has those kind of funds or jet. That's
You may be able to bring it, and maybe listen. You and Jason Whitlock can revive the Ball State pro. And listen, David Letterman, right? Isn't David Letterman a Ball State guy?
I'll do some things with David Letterman, but Whitlock, no. Whitlock is a hook, man. I'm like, man, this dude is kind of cuckoo here.
There you go. All right. That will do it for us. 3HL's up next. They're going to be live from Super Bowl Row. What do they call it? Is it Media Row at the Super
Radio
Bowl?
Row, yeah.
Radio Row. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, they got a killer guest lineup this week. Trevor Sikkema is one of the. They got Ian Rappaport today at 3:15, so that's a big one.
Rappaport.
But they got him, Aaron Schatz, Al Smith. I mean, they have a loaded lineup. They're going to be talking to all kinds of people. So just, for everybody to know, make sure you tune in to 3HL for some comprehensive Super Bowl coverage. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about what the NFL thinks of the Super Bowl around there. And then tomorrow, we're going to tell you what this quarterback class has to do with the 2006 quarterback class, if I'm not mistaken, it's 2006, Vince Young and Matt Leinart. Wasn't that year?
Oh, I don't know.
I believe so. I think I get my years right. But until then, in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.